Good evening, fighters, and welcome back to episode number 25 of the True North Fighters podcast. I'm Pharaoh.
And I'm Wolfpack reporting for duty. Holy shit, 25 episodes of season 1. How incredible is that?
Can you believe it?
Honestly, it's tough to even process that right now. Like, holy cow, we've already made it 25 episodes, and we still got a long ways to go before this podcast gets wrapped up for good. So holy hell, thank to everybody who's stuck by us for the past 24 episodes, and then this one, along with those who have been around since the pilot season. Just absolutely awesome. I love the fact that we've made it to 25, and like I said, we're just getting started.
Podcast ain't over yet.
Exactly.
Nowhere close.
Got that right. So, and to take a page out of the playbook of the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, what do you want to talk about? So, first and foremost, just want to reiterate very quickly for everybody that there have been a few changes made behind the scenes here at Canine Calamity. Pharaoh, as you guys know by now, has he's decided to, still present on the podcast, but he is also going to be taking over some of the additional duties that happen behind the scenes. So editing, recording, so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean he won't be contributing behind the microphone, because he will be. So just wanted to make sure that, we didn't catch anybody off guard or anything. And speaking of that, Shamaro is unable to be with us for this recording. He is currently out on family business. So he will be back later on this week. He'll be back by the time the episode goes live. But yeah, for tonight, it's Pharaoh and myself. So strap in, hang on tight, because we got a lot to get through.
Oh boy,
So
do we.
exactly. So Pharaoh, care to start us off here?
Alright, now the first thing I think we need to bring up here is regarding Tekken 8. And
Oh yeah.
we got a recent thing going on with new character, well, not really, returning character, Lydia Sobieska, who
That's
is
correct.
going to who is going to make her triumphant return in early access to Tekken 8 on July the 22nd, and will get her full release on the 25th.
Exactly. I am absolutely looking forward to Lydia being playable once again. She took everybody by storm when she was introduced in Tekken 7 as a DLC character, and just, oh my gosh, she is probably one of the coolest and most fun characters that I have ever played within the past 3 mainline entries for Tekken. And it's absolutely amazing. I mean, as if getting Eddie Gordo earlier this year wasn't crazy enough, now we've got Lydia coming back. So not only do we have everybody's favorite capoeira fighter coming back, but our esteemed prime minister from Poland is coming back. Holy smokes, I am absolutely excited for this. And on top of that, for those that didn't see it, Bandai Namco also released a beginner's guide on learning how to play Lydia, as well as an early look at what we can expect. And you know what? Just, oh my gosh. If there was ever, a better time for Lydia to come back, it's now. It is absolutely now. And with the fact that um, we're also getting post-launch DLC for the story mode as well, I'm really curious to see if Lydia plays a part in any of that.
I have to say, it does beg the question. How does Lydia manage to fight in Tekken and be the Prime Minister of Poland at the very same time? Like, what sort of crazy schedule must you have to be able to manage all that?
Well, I mean, you could pretty much ask that in regards to just about everybody else in the Tekken universe that's juggling more than one thing in their lives. I mean, oh my gosh. Just look at the Mishima bloodline for crying out loud. Jinpachi, Heihachi, Kazuya, and Jin. Not only have they all been fighting and stuff like that, but they've been juggling fighting with also being the head of the Mishima Zaibatsu, which is one of the largest corporations in the entire world. So, in addition to being a CEO, you're also getting in the ring and fighting it out against some of the very best from across the globe, across, various disciplines of combat as well. Everything from Wing Chun to Lucha Libre and so on and so forth. It's absolutely nuts. Um, and that's also a recurring theme with major fighting games as well. Because we've seen everything in fighting games from grizzly bears to vampires to um thunder gods, if you will. So it's a wild, wild world, or multiverse, I should say, that us fighting game fans live in. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. And yeah, if you guys weren't already looking forward to playing as Lydia, uh, there's no better time to be a Tekken fan than right now, despite all of the backlash that the game has received since launch. That seems to be pretty much in the rearview mirror now as we focus on more post-launch content. So yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome. So for those who did end up pre-ordering Tekken 8 or purchase the deluxe upgrade pack separately, you will be able to have 3 days early access for DLC characters before they officially release for the rest of the world. So I already made sure that I did that, so I now officially have Eddie Gordo in my roster, and come July 22nd, Lydia will be added to my roster as well. So it's July 22nd. It's going to be an exciting time to be a fighting game fan for sure, especially
Somebody
when it
must be a
comes
Lydia fanboy, that's for sure.
to. Look, I will at least appreciate the fact that you did not go out of your way to call me a simp, unlike what Shamaro did last episode or a couple episodes before. I
Don't tempt
appreciate.
me. I will start calling you a simp if you keep tempting me.
Oh my god, no. Oh my god. See, you guys, I normally don't have to put up with this, but oh gosh. Regardless, definitely looking forward to Lydia coming into Tekken 8, making her second appearance in the Tekken franchise. And speaking of characters that are coming back from one iconic fighting franchise to another, we have quite a bit of news for Mortal Kombat 1. First and foremost, a panel for MK1 has been confirmed for San Diego Comic Con. It's going to be taking place on Friday, July 26th. It'll be 2 p.m. Pacific time, but for those living in the GTA, such as Pharaoh and myself, it'll be taking place at 5 p.m. Eastern. And a lot of things will be discussed in regards to the future of Mortal Kombat 1. We'll be getting probably a detailed roadmap of what to expect in the year to come. We will probably be getting the announcement of every character in Combat Pack number 2. In addition to that, I've also heard from the grapevine that there will be some new game modes coming to Mortal Kombat 1 as well. So I'm
Could
very
certainly use a
curious.
few.
Honestly, I have no idea what these new game modes are going to be, but I'm very excited to find out. One thing that I've always wanted to see come back is tag team combat. I mean, it's an incredibly underrated mode in my opinion. It showed up in Mortal Kombat 9, and one of my first memories of Mortal Kombat 9 was actually teaming up with you
Oh yeah,
to
that's right.
tag team
Oh,
ladder.
that was so
So
long ago.
it was a long time ago, definitely, but it was a lot of fun. And to be honest with you, the fact that it's been a one-off mode, it really upsets me because there is so much potential to be had, especially with all the new characters that have been introduced post MK9. You know, everybody from the combat kids to Scarlet coming back and being a more fleshed out character. Characters like Kotal Khan and Devora, also bringing back obscure characters in MK1, the likes of Ashra, Nitara, um, a fan favorite in Ermac coming back as well. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of potential to be had, but yeah, we'll be getting news on new game modes. We'll probably get the full lineup for Combat Pack 2 revealed as well. So it'll be interesting to see which guest characters will wind up in MK1. And speaking of DLC characters, we are getting closer and closer to the release of the final main fighter and cameo for Combat Pack 1. Farah as the cameo, and Takahashi Takeda as the final fighter for Combat Pack 1. Both of them are releasing simultaneously on, I believe it is July 23rd. So that is going to be next Tuesday, actually. That's going to be next Tuesday that they both release simultaneously. And get this, Ed Boon posted a huge thread on Twitter earlier last week in regards to some of the stuff that is going to be covered over the next week or so. And with Evo coming up this weekend, Takeda is actually going to be available to play during the MK1 tournament at Evo. So that is going to be absolutely incredible. I don't believe Farah is going to be available as a cameo, but it's been confirmed by Ed Boon that with this pre-release build of Takeda, there will actually also be plenty of buffs being applied to various fighters and cameos. I believe, as far as cameos go, I think we've got. Let me double check. So for the cameos, Frost and Scorpion are getting new ambush moves. Sector is getting an improvement to his missile attacks. Cyrax getting improvements made to his bomb attacks. And Goro getting a whole bunch of new ambush cancel options. And as far as the main characters go, Nitara is getting some mega buffs ahead of Evo. Li Mei also getting a couple of buffs. Quan Chi getting a new buff. And same thing as Scorpion as well. And there is going to be, and I quote, crazy buff to uppercut jump. So I can't even begin to imagine how that's going to affect gameplay, especially when Evo rolls around. But with this pre-release build of Takeda, things are going to get absolutely heated at Evo, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how things are going to go. Which reminds me, at the time of recording, it is Sunday, July 14th. Tomorrow, um, Monday, July 15th, we are getting an official gameplay trailer for Takeda. That's going to be dropping at, I believe, around 9 a.m. Eastern. And I believe it's going to be, I think it'll be, actually, no, I think it's 11. I think it's 11 Eastern. And then I believe 10 a.m. Central, and 8 a.m. I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific that this gameplay trailer is going to go live. So, very excited to see what they kept the same from MKX with Takeda, what they changed, what things did they add for Takeda's moveset. Regardless, like, this has been the most highly anticipated character for Combat Pack 1. So clearly, NetherRealm Studios knows what they're doing. They're saving the very best for last. And I honestly, everybody's gonna pop off once they see this gameplay trailer, dude. I will not be surprised if you wind up popping off as well once you see it.
Yeah, probably. But the one thing I have to bring up though is the odd way of wording they decided to bring it up on regarding the Comic Con appearance of the game, or at least regarding the panel or something. It just
Yeah,
sounded a little bit ominous.
I do agree on that. From the official tweet that was put out by San Diego Comic Con themselves, or actually it was from the SDCC unofficial blog. Um, it ended up saying that the future of the game is going to be discussed, and those are not my words. Those were the words that came directly from the post. Um, so yeah, definitely a little odd in terms of the wording because, with us gamers, we usually know that when we see something like that, 9 times out of 10, it means it's going to be something negative. So, thank goodness that that's not going to be the case and that MK1 is not shutting down before we even hit the 1 year anniversary of this game. So, thank goodness that this game is still going strong. Uh, Even despite the fact that the game actually had, I believe, the second lowest registration numbers um, for Evo Vegas, which is, that's kind of unfortunate. But nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting tournament. So, lots to look forward to. Pre-release build of Takeda at Evo. We're getting a full gameplay trailer tomorrow at the time of recording. July 26th, we've got a panel for MK1 at San Diego Comic Con. And yeah, with both Ed Boon and John Tobias being in attendance for that panel, it's definitely going to be one that you're not going to want to miss. I can tell you that much. So, with that said, thank goodness I was able to catch myself before I got carried away.
I think there's one
Uh,
thing we should bring up though.
oh, did I miss something there, Pharaoh?
The one thing we don't know yet is, are they going to decide to stream that?
Um, they may. I believe there is a YouTube channel for San Diego Comic Con, so there is a possibility that it could be streamed. If not, then chances are that for the MK1 panel, there's a good chance that whatever gets revealed will actually be posted on all of Mortal Kombat's social media handles. So even if it doesn't get streamed, everything that's revealed during that panel will probably get posted later on to Instagram, to Twitter, onto their YouTube channel, probably on TikTok as well. So yeah, I'm not entirely too sure if they're going to stream it, but we'll see what happens because the panel is actually going to be next Friday, so still got a bit of time to speculate before the event actually gets underway. But essentially, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, of course, of course. Now,
So, with that said, moving on, an interesting development has come about with Dota 2. And this really shocked me because I was not expecting Dota 2 to go down this route. But not too, but actually quite recently, almost about 5 days ago, Act 3 of the Crownfall event for Dota 2 was officially released. And apparently, with it, they actually added a fighting style mini game into the actual game itself. So Dota 2, like your ears are not deceiving you. Dota 2 has a mini game that is basically a 2D fighter inspired by Street Fighter. It is so incredibly odd to me that Dota 2 is diving into the world of fighting games, but at the same time, it provides an interesting bit of competition because, as we all know, Dota 2 is one of the most iconic MOBAs in history. Not nearly as iconic as League of Legends, but it's way up there. And as we already know, League of Legends already has a fighting game in the works, 2XKO, which we actually did get some news on that. We'll touch on that in a couple minutes. But yeah, apparently in this mini game, you can choose from 5 different characters, and once you've selected your character, you're pretty much matched up against others in a 2D style fighting game. Um, and it seems to be based solely around making a first impression. So, I mean, like, I don't really know what to make of this, but something tells me that maybe, just maybe, this particular minigame could lay out the foundation for an actual Dota 2 fighting game somewhere down the line, um, in order to actually compete with 2XKO being done by League of Legends and Riot Games. So it's odd, but you know what? It just happened like a few days ago, and it's gotten a lot of people talking. So definitely definitely very odd to say the least that Dota 2 of all possible MOBAs has decided to dive into the fighting game category, but you know what? That's why you experiment with stuff. You try out different things, see what people say about it, and who knows? It might be a success, it might not be. Right now we don't know if this is going to be like a limited time mini game or if this is going to be something permanent that will be updated as future patches get released. But yeah, definitely by far this is probably the most bizarre piece of news that I've managed to find this past week.
Frankly, I'm surprised. It's I never expected Dota in in any capacity would even attempt to jump into this endeavor. But I think the only reason it ever did so is simply to compete with League of Legends. If we're going to be
Yep.
completely honest here, I mean they are like probably really really big rivals.
Oh, absolutely. Like when you talk about MOBAs, usually Dota 2 and League of Legends are the first ones that get mentioned in that conversation. So, and like I don't blame you for seeing things from that perspective because a lot of people have actually begun to theorize that quite possibly this is Valve potentially firing some shots at Riot and showing them that whatever they can do, whatever Riot can do, Valve can do just as well. Although right now, again, it's a little too early to judge that because again, this literally just happened a few days ago. So, like if you were to revisit this in like a month from now, maybe 2 months from now, um, maybe things might change, but we also have to keep in mind that 2XKO is still in development. This game is not coming out for at least another year or so. So, yes, this could be the start of some competition, but we'll never really know the true extent of said competition until A, we learn about what's going to happen with this fighting minigame going forward for Dota 2. And secondly, once 2XKO officially releases worldwide. So, only time will tell in this case.
That is a fair point. We'll just have to wait and see on how both those games decide to progress, and we'll make further comments as they go along.
Exactly. And as I mentioned earlier about 2XKO, we did get some good news. A new fighter has been confirmed. The one and only Braum is now coming to 2XKO. This makes him, I believe, the 6th or 7th character that is officially confirmed for 2XKO. If you guys got a chance to check out his gameplay trailer, holy smokes, this guy is crazy. He is pretty much like Zangief from Street Fighter, except one, he's not a wrestler, and two, his primary weapon is a gigantic freaking shield. Like this thing is huge, and literally he's doubling up on using that shield. He can use it to defend himself. He can use it to attack people. In a way, he's kind of like Captain America in being able to use his shield for offensive and defensive purposes. But just holy smokes, this guy blows me away. And I don't even play League of Legends. Like it's been ages since the last time I even played a match in League of Legends. So, obviously got very little to no knowledge on what Braum is all about, but you know what? He brings a very smash mouth, in your face kind of fighting style, which, you know, makes perfect sense with a character that got revealed earlier this year, the Kraken Priestess Ilaoi, who also takes a very in your face approach to her fighting style. And it makes perfect sense because that was the pairing that Riot used for this gameplay trailer, was Ilaoi and Braum together. So it's based on first impressions. I say that I definitely say that Braum is going to be one of the most dangerous characters in the game, and he's going to be really tough to face. That, you know, to the point where he's gonna essentially give Darius a run for his money, because Darius is also going to be in the game, and if you pit these two heavyweights against each other, like, it all hell is gonna break loose. And if you pair them up together, that's like having that's basically like having Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees on the same team. That's absolutely nuts. Another example would be like having Rocky Balboa and Muhammad Ali on the same team. Absolutely ridiculous. Um, but yeah, first impressions on Braum absolutely blew me away. He looks very exciting to play as, and chances are that there will probably be a playable demo at Evo where players will actually be able to test out Braum for themselves and, you know, get a taste of what he's all about. So I am very excited to see how things go there. So with that, I believe now we can I believe now we can actually dive into our discussion topic. And this is one that I came up with uh, not too long ago. This point kind of came to me on while I was just busy daydreaming and whatnot.
As we
But
all do.
yep. So the idea here came to me from a question that popped up in my head in terms of making fighting games more accessible. Um, and with those who are just getting into fighting games, you know, they don't know a whole lot outside of the fact that, you know, there are buttons that correspond to specific limbs and stuff like that. So basically, what I'm getting at is, what if there were guides that were created in game to help new players understand all the terminology and jargon that gets used so frequently within the fighting game community? That's pretty much where I'm going with this. So, like, with all there are all sorts of different terms that have been utilized over the years. Everything from, you know, your different attack types, such as your overheads, your dragon punches, your DPs, so to speak. Also, get your minds out of the gutter. That is not what it sounds like. um to more to more complicated things, such as Daigo Parry and Karen throws. I
Karen throws, huh?
Karen throws.
I had something funny pop in about that.
I believe me, I'm still learning a lot of these phrases and words myself. So that's all part of being a gamer. You learn about these different kinds of things, and it's kind of like a really 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 difficult path to take for riding a bike, for learning how to ride a bike. It's like trying to learn how to ride one, but you overthink things so much and you just make it so much harder on yourself. So that's why I started thinking of, what if there were guides that were introduced, whether they be, pamphlets inside of the game case, or digital ones that you could download off the internet for that particular game, that helps simplify all these different pieces of terminology to make them easier for new players to understand. Because you start throwing out all these different terms and stuff like that, like, people are not going to know what you're talking about. It's like as they're getting their feet wet in this style of fighting, in this style of video games. Sorry, I'm so hyped up I can barely talk properly. It's basically like you're gonna make the newcomers seem like they're looking at you with, eight eyes, four heads, an extra pair of arms and legs. Maybe you grew a tail, maybe you've got tentacles, maybe you've got antennas. Like, basically, they're just gonna look at you like you're not from our world.
You're thinking of a Frankenstein's monster right here, man.
Exactly. So I truly do feel like that this needs to be a thing, um, so that you're not unintentionally driving away any potential fans of this particular genre. And like that goes for, that goes for any other genre as well that has a boatload of jargon. A prime example of that would be FPS games and MOBAs.
Oh,
Those,
definitely, definitely.
yeah, those ones have like hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of terminology, and a lot of which you would have to memorize as well.
Oh, good lord.
So it definitely not an easy task, that's for sure. But yeah, I definitely feel like this needs to become a thing, because if you want to attract new people into the community, and you want to get them to buy your games and play them, they need to understand, they need a way to understand what it is that they're getting themselves into, right? And like for me personally, when I first got into fighting games, like I didn't even know any of this stuff. I didn't start learning about this probably until like maybe about 3-4 years ago. And I've been playing fighting games for probably what, almost a decade at this point.
Something
So
around that time, I think.
something like that, yeah. So, like, even those who've been playing for a long time, don't know all the jargon. I'm still trying to figure it all out myself, but yeah, so I'm actually curious as to what your thoughts are, in regards to the possibility of in-game guides being included that simplify FGC terminology.
Honestly, man, I 100% agree with a lot of the stuff you said. But the one thing I think you have to be worried about here is how the veteran players are going to feel, because
This is true.
that's the veteran players make up a significant percentage of fighting game player bases, and new players generally don't.
This is very,
It's
and that
it's
also
kind of
plays
yeah,
into,
yeah. Hmm?
yeah, that also plays into trying to make sure that you can have a healthy balance between your casual and competitive fan bases as well.
Yeah, that is very very correct. The main problem is you have to be able to have a, yeah, like you said, a healthy balance, but you have to try to make sure you don't cater too much to one group over the other, which unfortunately I'm pretty sure has happened significantly over the last number of years, favoring the competitive players over your casuals.
Yep, and
It's
vice versa as well. Looking at you, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite. Um,
that being the
so
opposite, right?
yeah, exactly. Catering too much towards the casual audience instead of having a balance between casual and competitive.
Then
So
again, you could have that the Marvel vs. Capcom 3's potential could simply be like a transition into competitive if you really want to start there. You could probably learn your stuff there and then move on to something else.
yeah, you probably could. But at the same time though, that does provide a little bit of a learning curve because as we know, the Marvel versus Capcom games, they're team-based games, right? So you assemble a team of 2 or 3 characters, and you got to learn to not only be able to master the moves of your characters, but to also learn how to incorporate the rest of your team into your attacks, into your strategy, so you can extend those attacks as far as you can. Whereas with other games such as King of Fighters, Tekken, and Street Fighter, those are more one-on-one based, where it's one character against one character. And some of the things that you learn from your 2v2s and your 3v3s, some of those things kind of go out the window when you narrow it down to just one-on-one. So that also could confuse some people as well.
That is a pretty fair point.
Not none
That does make it a lot more difficult. Is you ugh.
Definitely. It definitely makes things more difficult. And that I definitely do feel like this is one of the hardest genres to get into. Because it's completely unfamiliar territory. You've got hundreds of thousands of players who basically dedicate their whole lives um to making themselves the very best that they could be um with these games. Like some of these players, like they've been doing this for literally almost their entire lives, like from a young age.
I have to
uh
say you just very casually inserted an old Pokemon reference right there.
oh my god, did I really? Oh
Yes, you
my
did. And we're literally
oh,
referencing one of the very first lines of the original show. Like literally one of the first lines of the introduction is almost there.
what? Oh my god, I made a Pokemon reference and I didn't even realize it. Oh my god.
It's just the way you said it was that made me think of it.
Holy hell. I cannot wait to hear how that sounds when we replay this.
Oh! I don't think you'll be surprised.
Probably not, but I'll still get a good laugh out of it anyway. And plus, when we show it to Shamaro as well, I'm sure he'll get a kick out of it.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh gosh. But yeah, it this again, it's a very difficult, very complex topic to get into detail about. But nonetheless, to kind of sum it up in a too long didn't read kind of way, um, definitely in-game guides that simplify FGC terminology will be would be extremely beneficial, but at the same time, you want to make it so that the more experienced players don't come off with the wrong idea, where it's like they feel like they're being alienated or being ridiculed for knowing what all these different kinds of terminology mean. Um, so yeah, it's always going to be difficult to cater to both sides, I don't really think that there's ever necessarily been a perfect balance, so to speak. Like that, as we all know, is subjective. Everyone has their own opinions on that. But ultimately, if it's done right, having in-game guides that lay out the terminology in a simplistic way where everybody can understand it, I feel like that is probably going to be the closest one could get to achieving that perfect balance.
Actually, theoretically, there you could make two guides. One for the less experienced players. Then you have your returning veterans have their own version, which is more advanced.
Yeah, that's actually really fair. I do like the sound of that as well. And you know what? That would be a great way to, especially for experienced players that might have been out of the game for a while, maybe went on hiatus, or I guess maybe took a sabbatical, um, and are coming back into the fray. Definitely, it could help refresh their memory. So definitely not to say that a guide like that for the more experienced players wouldn't benefit anybody, because it absolutely would. Again, it's just trying to make sure that you can implement it um in the best way possible, where you can achieve enough of that balance, because anyone could literally just look at one little thing, take it completely out of context, and then like it just ignites a whole bunch of flame wars.
Hmm.
So, and like that,
Not like the FGC hasn't done that.
no, this is true, and that was actually leading up to what I was going to say next, is as if there weren't already enough of those happening on a regular basis within the community. Um, although this genre is not the only one that is guilty of this.
Oh no,
We
many
know for a
genres
fact
are
that
very, very guilty of that. I,
yes, exactly. The MOBA communities, FPS communities, like they are absolutely notorious for that. But
the one thing
I'm
I
not
have to
saying
say
at
about the
all.
FGCs though, they're well, yeah, obviously toxic as hell, no doubt. A lot of them
Yes.
are. I'd say that the one thing that kind of sets them apart is the entry to the entry buy-in. Generally, not all the case. Looking at you, Modern Warfare 3. Good lord, that's expensive. The entry
Yep,
buy-in is generally lower, but
I could see that. Yep.
yeah, but you don't actually have to. Well, that's a lie. It's really meta stuff, but hey.
Yeah. Whatever gets you in gets you in.
Hmm.
So,
And then
you
there's the
know,
meta. Then there's the meta.
ex- exactly. And the understanding of the meta, 9 times out of 10, that's usually what separates, the good players from the great player, and again, you take one little thing about that out of context, boy, you're gonna be in hot water, that's for sure. But by no means am I saying that the fighting game community is better off than any of the other gaming communities, because there's still a lot of room for improvement in many different areas. But I was just alluding to the fact that this community is not the only one that can get toxic, you know, in a heartbeat. So, uh, nonetheless, hopefully one of these days, this idea gets implemented, and hopefully it will bring in more players, and hopefully said players will begin to feel a bit more comfortable with playing these games, and a bit more confident in their abilities, so to speak, of how well they know the game, the different kinds of strategies they come up with, and stuff like that. So really, it's sometimes it's really the little things that you gotta talk about and see how those would fit in.
Oh, definitely. But I think there's always one aspect that gets overlooked,
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. There's always one or two that just stand out, and it's like it goes over everybody's
Oh yeah,
heads.
I think the one that generally goes over everybody's head the most, well, is the players themselves.
Yep, this is very true. I hate admitting this as much as the next person, but we are our own worst enemy. It is very very simple as that.
Sometimes in multiple ways than multiple more ways than one.
Yes, this is very very true, and we've seen that on display over the years. You know, everything from just pure raging because one little thing in their plan went wrong to, you know, those who are extremely arrogant and think they know everything only to then be humbled uh at the end of the match.
Hmm.
So, you know, nobody's perfect, but definitely there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Don't get me wrong; the gamer rage compilations, those are on YouTube. Those are funny as hell.
Well, they're only funny if you're the person watching them,
Well,
obviously.
yeah, of course.
Because like that's the worst feeling in the world, you know, is raging. And sometimes it's the only thing that you can do, you know. Sometimes you have no other choice, but ultimately with a community that is pretty well known for rage quitting and being extremely salty, definitely a lot of work needs to be done there. You can't you force everybody to be good people with each other. You know, it just comes down to how that person can, you know, regulate the use of their emotions and kind of make sure that they keep everything under control.
Well, yeah, of course. And then you always have to keep an eye on the pluggers and all that. I
Oh
know that's
yeah.
fine. I know that's fight. It's sort of fighting game terminology, but should we just go a little bit about that? Just tell them if they don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. So I'm not well versed in fighting game terminology, but from what I know, basically a plugger is basically a form of a rage quitter who just unplugs their console when they're about to lose. That
Ex-
way, they don't lose a match and the winner doesn't win a match. It's very infuriating to the player who's about to win.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's what I like about this is how some games actually have fun with this sort of thing. Like Mortal Kombat, it is infamous for, you know, having pluggers trying to avoid humiliating losses and stuff like that. And it never really works. Why? Because the moment they do that, it's considered in Mortal Kombat, it is considered a quitality.
Ha ha! A quitality, huh?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm kind of glad that some games can have fun with this sort of stuff, but at the same time, you know, just like with people, no game is perfect. And we do know that there are several dev teams of different games who are working on, you know, just trying to minimize the amount of cheaters in general. I know that Katsuhiro Harada, the lead dev for Tekken, he has already, you know, put out tweets about the dev team moderating online matches and figuring out ways to deal with cheaters. And even those who have been in the game for a long, long time, players like Justin Wong and Broski, as well as Ketchup and Mustard, they too also um, find different ways to expose cheaters by breaking down their gameplay, pinpointing things that don't really seem normal. And also, by the way, shout out to all of those content creators, Justin Wong, Broski, Ketchup and Mustard, among many others. Broski actually did quite a few videos for Street Fighter 6 where he's encountered cheaters, and he's broken down the gameplay. So if for any of you who are interested in seeing that kind of stuff, definitely check out Broski. Easily one of the coolest players that this community has. All respect to him. But yeah, overall, having getting back to the point and just kind of wrapping this up here. Uh, overall, having an in-game guide that simplifies the terminology that the FGC uses, again, can be a really good way to get new people to start playing because at least that way, they'll have an easier way of understanding what's going on.
All right,
On
so I guess that
that
means
note, I should say, on that note, that brings us to the final segment of the episode, the dream rosters. And Pharaoh actually did something a little interesting this time. He's done it a couple times over the course of the podcast. Doesn't usually do it too often,
it's when
but
my ideas are good.
this is true, but he actually decided to have me go into this episode blind. Or I guess deaf, so to speak, because he didn't tell me what he had in mind for his dream roster. So he was saving it so that I could, hear this for the first time along with everybody else that's listening. So, Pharaoh, take it away, buddy. What do you
All
got for
right, so I know we understand that yep, I know you're hearing this for the first time, but the dream roster I'm suggesting simply is, well, Fallout, actually. More specifically, Fallout 4. Because that's of
Oh,
those games, that's the one I know the best.
okay, okay.
Now, yeah, it's a bit
Interesting.
strange. You're combining a looter shooter with an action RPG and to some extent a town builder all in one. And how exactly is that going to work as a fighting game now?
That's a very good point. That's an excellent question.
Pretty much how I would see it is you would have the sole survivor of Vault 111 and all of the companions, well, say for dog meat, he's a dog. Not exactly how you'd see that work. You'd have to have all of your playable, not playable, but companions who you can travel with. And trust me, there is a significant number of them too. And they each have their own different personality and what they like and what they don't. So you have a lot
Okay.
of things to manage. So you have to manage your relationships with not your confidant, again, your companions, and try not to piss them off too much.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I mean, you've got humans, ghouls, basically irradiated humans, pretty much. Uh, super mutants, again, kind of the same things that they've been worked on. Uh, a couple of robots, even. I think that's something. It's, I have to say, it's a very inventive little cast. Some of them have their own, like, I'd have to put a couple of them as their, with abilities and everything, but, should I bring up one of them in particular, just as like a character comparison to an actual fighter?
Okay. What you got for us
All
there?
right, so because I'm gonna make, I mean, I know you made a comparison to Braum or to Zangief and everything,
Yep.
and I have another Zangief comparison.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, the character I'm bringing up here is a super mutant named Strong, and well, I think his name kind of does you enough business in what he's about.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's pretty much psychotic and loves to smash a whole bunch of shit.
There you go. It doesn't get any more simplistic than
No, it
that.
doesn't. Uh, yeah, I think if it's anything tearing up shit, destroying crap, he'll love it. And I think as a move set, you definitely have to incorporate that in some capacity.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Now, if I were to put this as a type of fighter, this becomes a difficult task. If I was honestly, no, I was gonna think maybe an open world fighter, but no, that's pretty much a hack and slash or a beat 'em up, depending.
Yeah,
So, if I were going to honestly put it, I would have to say a first person arena fighter.
oh, okay,
I mean,
okay. I like where this is going.
it's probably I don't even know I don't know if that's been done before. Since you won't be or no, that'll be more like boxing. What am I saying? Uh it's really hard because you have to really dig deep. And with Fallout usually having either a first or a third person, it's really difficult to try to incorporate a side view, a traditional side view, like all the most of the other fighters have.
Yeah, that's a fair observation.
It's
Yeah,
possible, but not. It's just not true to the game.
yeah,
But
that's a good point. And
you
that
could
that
theoretically have a third person fighter, like third person arena, but it'd be more of like that kind of. I'm not even sure how I want to put it. Maybe a sort of a fusion between a fighter and a beat 'em up at the same time. That
yeah,
might
I
be the best way to
kind
put
of see
it.
that. Yeah, I can kind of see it. I honestly, I think it's a killer idea. And you know what? Especially for a franchise like Fallout, um, I do honestly feel like it would fit really well into the fighting game genre. Like even just the environment for crying out loud.
Oh
Like
yeah, you
that,
could have a whole bunch of random stages that you could simply just as actual fighting locations.
yeah, like even environment alone, it fits um into this category of video games. And this is coming from somebody that has never ever touched a Fallout game before.
I
So
really think you should try them one day. I think you might have
I
some enjoyment, especially with the character building that Fallout 4 has.
yeah, I would probably have to agree on that. I mean, the abomination that is Fallout 76, like that's long gone. If we're gonna focus on any Fallout game, it's got to be Fallout 4.
Hey, to be fair, give Fallout 76 a little bit of credit that they've come a long way since their disastrous launch.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, plus we've gotten a lot of, hilarious creator content out of it too.
Oh, no doubt.
Thanks to thanks to all the crap that went wrong with it. But yeah, I love the idea. I think it's really solid, and like I mentioned, Fallout just seems like one of those franchises that would fit really really well into this style of video game. It works. So in terms of what I bring to the table here, I myself am coming back to the original concept of the Dream Roster, which is coming up with a fighting game idea for a franchise that does not have a fighting game based off of it. I know I've basically gone all over the place with my ideas over the weeks and months, but I am finally bringing it back to the original concept, and I'm going for a lesser known Bandai Namco IP called God Eater. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, Pharaoh.
I believe in passing I have, but I don't really know what it's about.
Well, I to sum it up as best as I can, and I really am going to try my best because I haven't played a God Eater game in quite a while, probably a few years. But it's it's a post apocalyptic setting, a post apocalyptic version of a barren Earth, and you have these monsters called origami that are essentially roaming the world. So you play as you pretty much play as a soldier of sorts who can utilize all different types of weapons, everything from um, small bladed weapons to large bladed weapons, hammers. You can use shields, and it it kind of plays like a hack and slash. So it does take some inspiration from games like God of War, Devil May Cry, and so on and so forth. But really, that's the best that I can. That's the best way I can put it. Um, and there are a fair number of fighting games that do utilize a post-apocalyptic setting. So
Mortal Kombat, for
personally,
example, I'm pretty sure in some cases.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. So oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's perfect because you even have um like hubs and stuff like that. Um and different battlegrounds too from within the game itself. So I don't know why I worded it like that. You know what I mean though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I definitely feel like it could work. Combat wise, I definitely see it being weapon oriented, a lot like Soul Calibur, or alternatively, like the 3D era games of Mortal Kombat. So like uh, Deadly Alliance and Deception, where you had like different uh, fighting disciplines, the usage of different weapons. Like for example, I'm pretty sure Scorpion used like double swords. Raiden had his staff, and so on and so forth. So I see it very much being weapon oriented. As far as the type of fighting game that it could be, um, I feel like it could possibly be like a pixelated 2D platformer, or it could be a team-based arena fighter, sort of similar to maybe Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, which, of course, I would also include the option of changing up how many characters are on your side and on your opponent's side. So I would definitely give the option for doing 3v3, 2v2, one on one, but I would also then give the additional options of handicap matches. So 2v1, 3v2, and 2v1. I would definitely put those in there. And like God Eater, like it doesn't have a whole bunch of games. I believe I think it has about 6 games, and there's a pretty sizable cast combining all 3 of them together. And in keeping with the style of God Eater, I would even add the ability to create your own character, as in the God Eater games, you actually do take control of a player character instead of a character that already exists in the game's canon lore. So I that's pretty much how I would see it. I'll definitely be expanding on that sometime in the future if I ever do bring it up again, which I hope I do because it sounds pretty fucking badass. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my dream roster for this week.
Interesting. I have to say it shares a few similarities with mine, so
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I think we set a theme for this week. Like
I I I think we have.
this isn't the first time we've set a theme.
No, it's
There was the food theme we set by the number of weeks
that's
ago.
right. That's right. We did do that a handful of weeks ago. But yeah, definitely I'm sensing a theme here, despite the fact that Fallout and God Eater are 2 completely different franchises, 2 completely different play styles, uh, slightly similar environments, but just completely different methods of gameplay for sure.
Genres are also completely different.
Exactly, you add that in there as well. But regardless, that's the whole point of us doing our dream rosters is exploring all of the potential that is out there. You know, regardless of how well known or how obscure the title is, you know, whether it's made by a top tier company or it's made by, you know, one or two people, like that's what this is all about, man. And you know, we've been delivering that same kind of stuff for 25 plus episodes, and I know eventually we're going to run out of ideas, but we're not there just yet. We're not there yet.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So with that in mind, I believe now would be as good a time as any to wrap up this episode. So thank you guys very, very much for listening. Every time that you guys tune in, that helps us because pretty much our motivation for continuing to do this is you guys, the fans. You guys are what drive us. Well, aside from our passion, aside from our mutual passion for this particular genre of video games, your support means everything to us. And again, I'm gonna mention this literally, like I'm gonna mention this as many times as I can at the end of each episode until this thing is over and done with. Tell everybody you know about us. I don't care who it is, your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, boyfriends, girlfriends, hell, even your pets can listen in um on what we do here because you know, this is what we do, man. This is what we do. We put this content out, and as long as you guys enjoy it, we will continue to pump out content. Uh, you know, hopefully we'll be doing better in keeping all of our uploads and our recordings on time with our schedules, or at least scheduling around things that can't be rescheduled. um, but yeah, and now I'm just blabbering on at this point. So, uh, to just pretty much kind of wrap this all up, put a bow on it. Thank you all so much for providing us with all this support. Means the world to us. And again, apologies that Shamaro could not be here. As I mentioned at the top of the episode, he's out on family business, but he will be back by the time this episode is up. And the next time you hear him, we will be covering a considerable chunk of the action, and I mean a hugely considerable chunk of all the action from Evo in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is this weekend coming up. For those who might have forgotten, it's July 19th through to the 21st. We've got 8 games that are being featured. There's also a community showcase that's happening, which features an additional 10 to 12 games. Chances are we're probably going to be sticking with a mix of probably like 2 of the main games and maybe 1 or 2 of the community tournaments. That we'll figure out as the week goes along. And before I forget, the broadcast schedule for Evo 2024 in Vegas is officially posted. Go to Evo's social media channels on Instagram and on Twitter. Check out the broadcast schedule. That is, if you're not going to be attending the event, all of the tournaments that are going to be happening will be broadcast across not 1, not 2, not 4, but 8 different Evo channels. So we're definitely going to need to figure that one out once we get to planning and stuff like that. But with that said, on behalf of K9 Calamity, this is Wolfpack signing off.
And this is Sparrow returning back to behind the computer. We will see you guys again all next week. So, you know what we all say. Fight
Yep.
on.
Fight on, baby. Take care. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Good night.